Everyone has overlooked this as heading into next season, a huge move is incoming with the St. Louis Blues and Doug Armstrong continuing wanting to add more talent. This one key free agent with ties to Jim Montgomery makes complete sense for this roster. We're going to break down this player, more players the Blues can target, and exactly what fans need to expect with the defense moving forward. We're going to break down all this and so much more in this episode. Before we get into that, if you're part of the 51.2% watching this and you haven't hit the sub button yet, we're trying to get this number down to 50% and reach a goal of 4,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying the daily content on the St. Louis Blues, go hit that free subscribe button. We'll keep you up to date on everything to do around the team, and go hit that cheer button that's down below as well. But with that, Darius, let's just hop straight into this. Where we do know the St. Louis Blues have a very deep team going in. We talk about it constantly. They added forwards. They brought in young pieces like Logan Mailloux, but the biggest question with this Blues team is who's going to be on the pairings on defense. Now, Matthew Kessel is a name that should cycle through. Tyler Tucker is someone that Jim Montgomery has raved about. Mailloux is even going as far as we see Doug Armstrong saying he's going to have to lose the position during camp to not make it. But with the remaining free agents there's a lot of options that really fit this Blues team. Listen, Ryan Suter, I know a lot of fans do want back, but we've seen the reports from Doug Armstrong saying that he talked to Suter, mentioned that they have 7 defensemen, and it sounds like a reunion won't happen. But Darius, looking at the list, is there anyone that just kind of sticks out the most to you on this free agency?
Yeah, and it's the one at the top of the list, and that's Matt Grzelcyk. And I think that it makes a lot of sense for the St. Louis Blues team. And there's a lot of reasons why. And we also should keep in mind that he is actively in talks. It was essentially leaked by his agent that he is in talks with the Toronto Maple Leafs right now as well. But I think this makes perfect sense for the St. Louis Blues team. And the reason being is because, first of all, Matt Grzelcyk had a great season last year, right? With the Pittsburgh Penguins, he was also playing behind, at least in terms of offensive production, Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson's relied upon to be that guy for that Pittsburgh Penguins team. And Matt Grzelcyk offered a really good season in terms of point production for the Penguins last year. So he's great in that way. Again, probably his best season. So keep that in mind. Of course, he is relatively young, right? He's just, in his early 30s right now. So wouldn't be so bad of a move. He has experience in the playoffs with the Boston Bruins, of course. So lots of ties to Jim Montgomery as well. So that can make a lot of sense in terms of the coach is familiar with the player and would know how to deploy the player. I think that it makes a lot of sense for the Blues lineup to have Matt Grzelcyk. You can afford him. We're going to get into the contract projection in a second, but with the LTIR relief, you can afford him. Of course, the rules are changing a little bit, so we have to keep that in mind heading into the playoffs. But could make some sense still for the Blues to go out and make that move. They could also make subsequent moves to move out salary cap space if they want to, or make space, I should say, and move out some salary cap. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Stylistically, it could get pretty interesting because I think it's a good scenario, and I do think that Jim Montgomery loves Tyler Tucker, but I think it's a good scenario if Tyler Tucker is your 7th defenseman. He's the guy that can come in once in a while, and Matt Grzelcyk with more experience and has, offensive upside could be in the lineup more often than not. And it could get very interesting stylistically, like I just said, with Logan Mailloux. That could be a line that could be out for a lot of goals against. So that's something that we have to keep in mind as well. But again, I think it makes perfect sense. There's connections to the coach. The coach knows how to deploy the player. The player had a great season last year. The Blues can afford it if they want to make it happen. It makes all the sense in the world. It really comes down to where's Matt Grzelcyk going to sign? Is it a PTO as well? But I think it makes all the sense in the world. And maybe that's why it hasn't happened yet. Maybe he wants to go to the Blues. It makes sense to go to the Blues, but they can't sign him yet. So maybe they'll sign him on a PTO. And then when the time comes, they'll sign him to a standard contract.
Because, I think the big thing is seeing the ties of Boston. He was under Jim Montgomery. He had playoff success in Boston, playing with them as well. The big thing is coaches really like their players. If they have a player on a former team that they're a huge fan of, they're going to move heaven on earth to try to convince the general manager to get him. Now, listen, I'm not saying Jim Montgomery was probably the biggest fan in the world of him, but the big thing is bringing in Grzelcyk, it is interesting. As you said, more of an offensive defenseman, putting up 40 points last year on a very bad Pittsburgh Penguins team as well. He adds a new thing to this team. Now, listen, I would love to go out to bring Ryan Suter back. We've seen how productive he was last season with this Blues team. He is getting up on age. Father time is catching up, but playing in all 82 games, putting up 15 points. He does fill the lineup out very good. But the big thing with the Blues, this defensive core is not bad in any means. You have Cam Fowler, being the offensive defenseman on the top line. Broberg ready to break out. Parayko is a guy that's going to be consistent, but the big issue with the Blues is how young the defensive pairings get in the bottom. Tyler Tucker, Logan Mailloux, and Kessel aren't going to be the youngest. They're not 18, they're not 19, but the big thing is the lack of experience could be kind of hard for the Blues to really put them out in all situations. Maybe we see Falk move down, Mailloux up with Broberg, and then you can put in a more of a young guy with them as well. But I do think grzelcyk fits. Listen, he's not going to throw the most hits. He's not going to go out and be a physical guy for you, but 40 points and a guy that can go on the power play and put up some points. I mean, Darius, would you be willing to go out, and I'm not going to say go out to give him, as soon as I can find the screenshot, all $8 million on this, because obviously that is ridiculous, but would you be fine going out to give him almost a 1-year deal at $2 million just as a prove-it contract?
Well, I think if the player wants to sign a 1-year deal, then that makes sense for the Blues, right? You don't want to lock up this guy to too long of a contract, because you do hope that Tyler Tucker takes over that role, and obviously Logan Mailloux will be an everyday NHLer and all of that, beyond this season. That is your hope, of course, and the fact that they are still, on their entry-level contracts does make a lot of sense for the Blues. So again, I think that you bring up a good point about inexperience, right? Maybe you want another guy that, the coach, again, I keep bringing it up, knows how to deploy and trust in the lineup alongside a younger player. You can win a Stanley Cup with rookies. It usually happens, right? There's a lot of teams that win with some younger players in their lineup, but not so many younger players, especially on defense, in the lineup. So you have to be, aware of that as well, which I'm sure Doug Armstrong is. So again, I think that he fits. He's not going to be relied upon to be that defensive stalwart. That's not who he is. But in terms of projections and salary cap, he is projected right now at around $4 million. I would imagine he's going to take less than that. A lot of teams are right up against it right now. And now with the new rules kicking in, the new CBA, I don't know if a lot of teams realize that was going to kick in for this year, which is tough because a lot of teams have made moves through the summer for next season. Then all of a sudden it's like, hey, by the way, no new rule. I'm sure they had some inkling that it was going to happen, but from the NHL. But again, that throws a whole different dynamic as well, or creates a whole different dynamic. So it will be very interesting. I think it's an incredibly interesting situation that he hasn't signed yet. Is he specifically holding out for the Blues to sign him? I don't know. I can't say that, but I do think it's odd, and I do think there's a lot of connections, and I think that a player like that would fit into their lineup, and I do think that he sees maybe an opportunity there. So could be very interesting for the player to play on a better team too. So again, I think it's very interesting. I think it fits, and ultimately, maybe it's a PTO, which leads into a standard contract because of the salary cap and the fact that that'll open up once the season starts.
And I mean, at the end of the day, if the Blues aren't going to go out and sign Matt Grzelcyk, they're going to do something eventually to add a more experienced guy on the defense. With Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? Who would you like the Blues to target? Is it to maybe circle back on Ryan Suter? Do you think Grzelcyk has enough influence on a guy like Jim Montgomery to get him in on this team? Let us know down below. But speaking of the comments, we'll get straight into comments today. And this was saying legend. Listen, we were talking on Scandella earlier. We weren't actually being serious that he was a St. Louis legend, but we just want to give a shout out to everyone leaving comments, watching the video, supporting this. Big shout out to you guys. And if you want to go leave a comment down below, you could be featured on Comment Today. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.